Right now, I'm speaking into the Razer Seiren Mini. In this video, I'm going to compare the Razer Seiren Mini to the Razer Seiren X and the Razer Seiren Elite. First will be an overview of each microphone, then I'll demonstrate their performance in various tests, and finally, I'll give my verdict on which of these is the best purchase depending on your use case. The Razer Seiren Mini is a USB condenser microphone that gets up to 6.5 inches tall with the included stand. It records in a supercardioid polar pattern and it is side addressed. You're talking to the side of the mic. There's no headphone jack or any buttons or knobs of any kind on the device. The Razer Seiren X is also a USB condenser microphone that gets up to about 7.25 inches tall with the included stand. Just like the Seiren Mini, it also records in a supercardioid polar pattern and is side addressed. Unlike the Seiren Mini, it includes a headphone jack for monitoring your audio, and on the front, there is a mute button and a volume knob to adjust the volume in your headphones. The Razer Seiren Elite is a dynamic USB microphone. This gets up to 9 inches tall with the included stand. It records in a cardioid polar pattern and is top address, meaning you speak into the top of this mic. It has several more features compared to the Seiren X and Seiren Mini, including a headphone jack, headphone volume knob, mute button, gain knob, high pass filter switch, wind guard, a digital analog limiter, and a peaking indicator light. The high pass filter eliminates very low frequency sounds. The wind guard provides minor protection against popping noises from your breath when you speak into the mic. The built-in limiter prevents the mic from distorting with very loud sounds by decreasing the sensitivity of the microphone when it detects something really loud. The peaking indicator, that red light, activates when the limiter is activated. And you can turn off that peaking indicator light by holding down the mute button for several seconds. And I'll be demonstrating all those features of the Seiren Elite in the performance section of this review. As for prices, I bought my Razer Seiren Mini for $50, Razer Seiren X for $100, and Razer Seiren Elite for $200. I have Amazon links in the description so that you can see current pricing for all these devices. And there's a link to my video teaching you how to make extra side income doing product reviews just like this. Now for performance. In this section, I'll be demonstrating and breaking down various aspects of each microphone in various tests such as proximity effect and distance testing, plosive rejection testing, sibilance, background noise rejection, a shock test, and a music test.
Proximity effect test on the Razer Seiren Mini. About 30 to 45 minutes ago, I started recording with these microphones, and I'm not even finished yet.
A little over a foot away from the Razer Seiren Mini. After using all these different mics, it's really interesting to see how small this thing is really compared to all of them. I think it's actually the smallest microphone that I have. Pretty cool. Seiren Mini about 3.5 feet away. Now I see you, but you can't see me.
Proximity effect test with the Razer Seiren X. I'm about 1 inch away from this device.
Razer Seiren X about 1 foot away, so we'll see if you can hear some of the reverberation around the room, or maybe not. About 3.5 feet away, Razer Seiren X. View looks pretty good from here. How y'all doing out there?
This is a proximity effect test with the Razer Seiren Elite. I'm speaking super close to the microphone, about 1 inch away. There's no pop filter on. This is what the device sounds like with no high pass filter. Now this is a proximity effect test. Well, I have enabled the high pass filter, and this should make a difference in the frequency response that we're going to get from this microphone.
High pass filter is off again, about 6 inches away from this microphone, about 3.5 feet away from this device, and this is not a sound treated room, so you're going to start to hear the effects of the echoes on the wall. The Razer Seiren Elite has by far the most pronounced proximity effect.
The proximity effect is when you're speaking into the microphone very close, about 1 to 2 inches away, and the sound gets super bassy, and it's something I'm a big fan of.
For voiceovers or honestly any type of spoken word content, this is a very effective way to get a lot warmer, richer vocals without having to do any sort of post-processing. That said, if you find this effect too powerful, on the bottom of the mic you can enable this button, which is a high pass filter, and that will tame the proximity effect if you want your voice to sound more natural when you're super close to it. From a distance, the Razer Seiren Elite retains the fullness of your voice up to about a foot away. Just like any microphone, the farther back you go, the more distant it sounds. But this microphone's bass didn't trail off as fast as the Seiren X and the Seiren Mini as I moved back. And it also did not pick as much reverberation around the room from my voice bouncing off the walls. Now the Seiren Mini and Seiren X get a lot weaker bass boost when you're talking right next to them, but speaking right next to these microphones isn't the ideal position for them anyway. The Seiren Mini and Seiren X both start to suffer from plosives up close, and the Seiren Mini, if you're too close to it, starts to suffer from sibilance, which I'll demonstrate. The Seiren Mini sounds pretty natural up to about a foot away, and I would suggest using this thing about 6 to 12 inches from your face. The Seiren X sounded about the same from about a foot away, but you can be a little bit closer than the Seiren Mini. It doesn't suffer from plosives or sibilance quite as much. And again, I'll demonstrate.
Plosives on the Seiren Mini, no pop filter. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, a peck of pickled peppers, Peter Piper picked. Pop filter on. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, a peck of pickled peppers, Peter Piper picked. No pop filter. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, a peck of pickled peppers, Peter Piper picked. Pop filter on. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, a peck of pickled peppers, Peter Piper picked. No pop filter. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, a peck of pickled peppers, Peter Piper picked. Now with the pop filter on, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, a peck of pickled peppers, Peter Piper picked. The Razer Seiren Mini does the worst job of preventing puffs of air or plosives from distorting the capsule of the microphone. And you can look on my channel, I've been using this mic extensively since it came out, and I do think that a pop filter is pretty much required if you're going to be using this thing for anything more than like basic video conferencing. The good news is you can generally buy the Razer Seiren Mini and a cheap boom arm with a pop filter on it for cheaper than you can get the Razer Seiren X by itself. The Razer Seiren X is decent at stopping plosives, not super impressive. And I thought the Razer Seiren Elite was going to actually dominate here. With the wind guard off, it just does about the same as the Seiren X. The wind guard on, it's a little bit better. But with all these mics, I do recommend a pop filter. Plosives were completely eliminated when I used a pop filter on the Seiren Elite and on the Seiren X, but they still did creep in a little bit even with the pop filter on the Seiren Mini. So when you use the Seiren Mini, not only do you need the pop filter, but you need to move a little bit back, like about 6 inches. She sells seashells on the seashore. She sells seashells on the seashore. She sells seashells on the seashore. Sibilance isn't that big of an issue for the Seiren X or the Seiren Elite, but the Seiren Mini, like I mentioned, if you're too close to it, like closer than 6 inches, then you are going to get those like really sharp S sounds. The Seiren X has a little bit, and there was like none on the Seiren Elite. Ambient noise test. Keyboard typing test, Razer Seiren Mini. Keyboard is behind the microphone and I have the mic on a boom arm right now. Razer Seiren Mini, I have the stand on my desk now. It is tilted up towards me and I have the keyboard behind it. Keyboard typing test, Razer Seiren Mini. Keyboard typing test, Razer Seiren X on a boom arm. Keyboard is behind the microphone and I'm speaking into the front of it. Razer Seiren X. Razer Seiren X is on my desk. Keyboard typing test. I have the keyboard behind the Seiren X and the Seiren X is on my desk. I'm speaking into the front of the microphone. This is the Razer Seiren X. I have the Razer Seiren Elite on a boom arm right now as I'm typing, and the high pass filter is off right now. Now I've enabled the high pass filter so that we can see if this makes any sort of a difference. And again, this is a typing test, still on a boom arm, and I'm just typing on the keyboard. Now the Razer Seiren Elite is on my desk and I have the microphone in front of the keyboard. The high pass filter is not enabled. This is just the built-in stand on the device right now, no boom arm. Now the high pass filter is enabled, Razer Seiren Elite. The device is on my desk and I'm typing with the keyboard behind it, speaking in front of it. This is the Razer Seiren Elite. Now, although the Razer Seiren Mini is marketed as a super cardioid microphone, it still picks up a ton of background noise. You hear sounds from around the room, you hear sounds from directly behind it, including the keyboard. Keyboard typing was like really obnoxious clacking behind the Seiren Mini. As has been par for the course with the Seiren X, it's really just in the middle when it comes to background noise rejection. It's not like overly sensitive to keyboard typing and background noise, but it doesn't really block any out specifically either. It's about standard for a condenser microphone at this price point. Now the Seiren Elite was excellent when it comes to background noise rejection. My computer fan was completely silent. Keyboard typing was quieted down to a dull, and this was with the high pass filter off. When I put the high pass filter on, not only was the keyboard typing like really quiet, but the actual bumps that you can hear on the desk, that doom 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 doom, that was eliminated. So the Seiren Elite does an excellent job. If you want a mic that's just gonna pick up your voice, not your computer fan, not cars driving outside, not people making noise inside your house, which happens all the time,
then a dynamic mic is a really good choice, and the Razer Seiren Elite is a dynamic capsule microphone. Now that said, I do have to address the elephant in the room if you've been listening to this review with headphones on. The biggest weakness by far of the Razer Seiren Elite is its obnoxiously loud noise floor. The noise floor being that static sounding hissing that you hear in the background of the track. It's present in all microphones and preamps, but it's incredibly loud in the Razer Seiren Elite. And the thing is, it ends up being louder than my computer fan. It's louder than a lot of the ambient noises around my house. So even though those are inaudible, you can hear that static in the background, and it's like super distracting. You can hear a little bit if you just have a computer monitor, but if you have headphones, it's like, wow, what is that? Now I have a video going over a quick way to deal with this, but in short, in OBS, you can use a noise suppression filter, and in Audacity, you can use a noise reduction filter. So as a quick example, this clip right here that I'm speaking into is with the noise reduction filter from Audacity applied, and it's night and day difference. This microphone sounds amazing when you apply that filter, but when you don't, whoo. Shock test, I'll bump the desk. Bump the boom arm. Bump the mic. Shock test, I'm going to bump the desk slightly. Now I'm going to bump the boom arm slightly. Next, the mic. I'm going to bump the desk a few times. And then let's go for, with the high pass filter on. High pass filter off. High pass filter on. Now all these mics are pretty decent when it comes to shock resistance, but the Razer Seiren Elite is definitely the champion when you put the high pass filter on, because like in my opinion, shock mounts, they kind of sort of work, but the real issue is just that thumping, that bassy sound that no matter how nice your shock mount is, whether it's like external or built into the mic, it can't really stop that. You really have to filter that frequency out. So if you're concerned about bumps like really causing an issue, first of all, stop bumping the mic. But if it's not something that you can help, the high pass filter is a super good option on the Razer Seiren Elite. So when it comes to shock testing, the Seiren Elite is the champion. All right, now I'm gonna test the limiter function on this device. And in theory, even if I shout, it shouldn't distort the microphone. Testing the limiter, testing the limiter. Now I'm testing the lack of the limiter on the Razer Seiren Mini, testing the lack of the limiter. Testing the lack of the limiter on the Razer Seiren X, testing the lack of the limiter.
I've been kicking up rocks, starting up danger. I've been digging up dirt like a teenager. I've been buying up stocks, trying to make paper. I've been acting all dumb now that we're strangers. Now that we're strangers, 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 strangers. Now that we're strangers, 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 strangers.
Now, none of these mics really impressed me when it comes to music. Low notes really just kind of mesh together in all the microphones. I would say maybe the Seiren Elite has the most detail in the lower notes, but it wasn't really that great on any of them. Now, highs on the ukulele were the most distinct on the Seiren Mini, which makes sense considering it's so sensitive to high-end frequencies like sibilance, when you're just speaking into the microphone really close. I found the Seiren X to be the worst overall. None of the notes really stood out and it just kind of sounded muffled. Now the Seiren Elite showed a lot of promise with the lower notes, but it just can't retain that same level of detail for all the frequencies of a song. And this isn't like a bad thing necessarily, but the Seiren Elite's really hard to record multiple instruments with. Like you can't be singing into it while playing the ukulele because it has a very tight like axis that it's gonna take sound in. But the problem is like you can't really like play an instrument and be speaking into the mic, and it picked them both up with great detail. So all of these mics are really tailored for spoken word, and if you want something for music, I would highly suggest the Blue Yeti. I really like that microphone for music, and I have a bunch of comparisons of that microphone on this channel. Now for my verdict. Of the Razer Seiren Mini, the Razer Seiren X, and Razer Seiren Elite, the only microphone that I can recommend unconditionally is the Razer Seiren Mini. It has excellent sound for its price point. If you pair it with a pop filter and you use it at an optimal position, it has really good sound for how much it costs. It's a great starter mic for video conferencing, YouTube videos, Twitch streaming. I pretty much built my channel with the Razer Seiren Mini. Now the Razer Seiren X is marginally better than the Seiren Mini, but the price increase I do not think is justified. The Samson Q2U can be found at a lower price than the Seiren X. I think it just sounds better in general, but it's also a dynamic microphone, so it has a lot of the same benefits that the Razer Seiren Elite has when it comes to background noise rejection. So I would not get the Razer Seiren X. It's not a bad microphone at all, and if you're a fan of Razer, then this is a bit of a step up from the Seiren Mini. But unless you're like a super hardcore Razer fan, I don't really see a reason to get the Seiren X. Now the Razer Seiren Elite ticks all the boxes when it comes to a great USB microphone on paper. It has a dynamic capsule, a built-in limiter, superb metal build quality. It has a high-pass filter for reducing the sound of shocks and bumps, and it can produce very warm and rich vocals. But its Achilles heel is its super loud noise floor. If you just plug this in and start using it, that static sound is really annoying. But if you're comfortable filtering out that sound in post-production or with some sort of a live filter, then this is an absolutely amazing sounding microphone for vocals. This is my main microphone and I highly recommend it if you're comfortable filtering out the sound from its noise floor. Links to all three of these microphones are in the description. And again, if you're interested in learning how to make money doing product reviews like this, then I have a video in the description teaching you how.